your album blank is not available on iTunes, they never realize that it's not available, number one. And number two, it's true, I swear to God. And number two is like, yeah, I'll get to it. And they always say, it's like almost like a cookie cutter thing. They always say the same thing. And it really comes down to paperwork. And the reason I know this is because my son is in a band, and it takes a lot of paperwork and stuff to get your stuff on iTunes. To get an album on, you don't just, it's not just like a 1, 2, 3, it's available on iTunes. You got to like go through several steps in paperwork to get it up there. And if you're not willing to do that, or if you don't have any incentive to do that, like the DLR band album is 20 years ago. And Dave's like, 20 years ago. What the hell do I care? That's not even one of my famous albums. So it's like, who's going to do the work and the effort to get it up there? And you can't just have fans do it or something. It's got to go through the proper channels. And I'm sure there's legalities and stuff that have to happen. And it's like no one wants to bother after a while. That's why the DLR band is not on there. Which is sad. But like, for example, Dave's 2003 album, Diamond Dave, that has a record label that purposely put it on iTunes. And it also came out at a time when iTunes was like more prevalent. You know what I mean? So it came out much later. So, you know, what can I say? You filthy little mouth, in the record books. You want to check it out, check it out. You want to take Dave's advice and throw it in the garbage, go ahead. Just remember.
I would just pick select songs off of it
yeah,
at best.
Select songs. And, you know, there's always something good on a David Lee Roth solo album. So there's none of them that are bad. None of them that I would write off as just being horrible and bad. There's always some good stuff there. And you could certainly make a fantastic DLR mix if you have all the albums and you want to put it together in iTunes, as I have done with my ultimate DLR mix, which I play all the time. And I have all my favorite tracks that I put and mesh together as a nice mix tape on my iPod, which I listen to all the time. But anyway, that wraps up Your Filthy Little Mouth. And we are going to go on to our interview with Nile Rodgers, who I spoke to a little bit. It's a short interview about producing this album. I had spoken to Nile about another issue, and I ended up doing just a little side convo with him about this album, specifically for you guys. That's number one. Number two, we are going to speak with Terry Kilgore, who is the guitarist and co-author of many of the songs on this album, and one of Dave's old buddies from back in the day. Terry is a fun, sweet guy, and he opened up about all things Roth, and he has a great conversation with Dave and I, so that's coming up as well. Take a listen.
I don't think Eddie would ever look me in the eye and shake hands, hugs and kisses. But Alex knows it's all true, and he knows it was all, he knows what happened. He was a bystander who stood by his brother, and I love them both. I still love Eddie Van Halen with all of my heart, and I wish him nothing but good health, but he put me through some miserable stuff that one human being should not do that to another human being.
Hey folks, I'd like to introduce you to the Classic Rock Album by Album podcast. Welcome to the Classic Rock Album by Album podcast, where no stone is left unturned in the show's epic quest to review and dissect every single rock album ever made. Join self-proclaimed rock authorities Chris Carson and Lee Bowie on their epic journey to uncover the true classics. You can find the Classic Rock Album by Album podcast wherever podcasts can be found, including Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Our website address is classicrockalbumbyalbum.libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. And we can be reached on Facebook at fb.me/Classic Rock Album by Album. See you soon from the Classic Rock Album by Album podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Eric Broadbent from Aviation Gear TV, and you are listening to my two favorite people, Dave and Dave Unchained.
Hey, this is Mitch Malloy. My new video and single, My Therapy, off the new CD, Making Noise, is now available on YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, and wherever music is sold. Go to MitchMalloy.com for more info and tour dates. I've been cheated, I've been had. I've never been broke this bad.
Because we have kind of been pigeonholed as America's premier party band, and we're not. There's much more to us as musicians and the music that we've written.
One of my favorite albums that you've produced is the David Lee Roth album, Your Filthy Little Mouth. What were you going for with that record, and how was Dave to work with?
Man, I love Dave, and what we were going for is exactly what we gave you. That is one of I have a handful of albums that I think are my finest work, and my finest work never sold. And I don't know if it's because it was too avant-garde, we were going to some other place, but I mean, you know, when you listen to songs like Big Train, and I mean, it's an amazing record.
Yeah,
so good. It's so good. I'm on the 101.
And how did you guys end up hooking up together? How did you guys end up working together?
I met Dave, believe it or not. I used to go to after-hours clubs all the time because I only sleep 2 to 3 hours a night.
Right.
So I heard that there was an after-hour club that David Lee Roth, that he owned, and I walked into the club, and this is a true story. The first time I met David Lee Roth and shook his hand, we were standing in an inch of urine, and I was wearing suede shoes that were totally ruined after that, and it was like really expensive shoes because the shower they had converted into a gigantic urinal, and the people just really drunk and really disgusting. But boy, did we have fun, and we just loved each other right away. And he goes, "No, dude, you're the man."
Now, where was this, on the West Coast or the East Coast?
The West Coast.
Oh, wow.
Los Angeles, in Koreatown, in a section of Los Angeles called Koreatown.
Wow. And to tell me, is he different off stage than he is on? Because he's always, like, on when he's on stage.
Dave is... Yeah, he's two different guys. Dave is a real intellectual, by the way. You know, his father's a doctor.
I know. He's Dave is incredibly well-read and educated, yeah.
Oh, he's always reading a book. He's smart. I mean, the reason why he and I got along so well together was because we would discuss a myriad of issues. I mean, it was just, every day with Roth was fascinating. I was just trying to get him to stop smoking so much pot. But other than that, it was like I'd have to bail him out of jail all the time.
But the album was it was such an incredible mixed bag of all the different styles that were on that record. When you handed it into the record company, were they surprised? Were they happy? Did they not know how to market it? What was their thoughts?
They didn't know how to market it, but guess what? We sold more records than I think we sold more records. I hate to, say things and have the statistics wrong, but I think we sold more records than that last incarnation of Van Halen without Roth.
Right.
Not positive, but we really sold a fair amount of records, but the record was so good to me, it should have been a monster gold platinum record. It should have really been good. And the record was that way because Roth is that old and adventurous. His world is not a small world. You know, when he came out and he did Just a Gigolo, the Louis Prima thing, it's because David's world is a big world. It's not just, it's funny when people think of the world of, three-chord rock, as they call it. Van Halen was never three-chord rock. They were unbelievable, and still are. But in a weird way, everybody sort of reduces rock and roll to these sort of like garage bandy three-chord rock bands that just know one position of a thing, and then have a lead guitar player who's a super shredder. But that's not the world to David. The world is to
David is, Coltrane and Gershwin and, and everything. And that's why I got along with him so well, and that's why I got along with Bowie so well.
Right.
Because his world was a big world that we both lived in and we loved.
Right.
We wanted to try and be didactic and still be entertaining. Like, we didn't want to beat people up and say, oh, well, believe it or not, this motif is from the third movement of something by Prokofiev. But, it was, just a cool little lick. On the song Let's Dance, we actually take a riff, and I note for note transcribed it right from the song Peter Gunn by Henry Mancini.
Right.
And it was just, so those are the kind of things that musicians do.
Right.
Or artists do. All artists do.
Yeah. Any chance of you and Dave working together again? Do you keep in touch?
Everybody calls me the worst friend in the world. I was just saying that to Lady Gaga the other day, and I said it's not because I'm the worst friend in the world. It's because that I'm so absorbed with whatever project I'm working on.
Right.
It's like we live for each other every day. We see each other every day. We call each other every day. In the middle of the night, hey, what do you think about that verse? And then when I'm doing the next record with the next person, well, then I'm doing the same thing with them.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's like there's a void in our lives, but I don't think about it because I'm on to the next record, and then they're probably doing a tour or getting their artwork together or doing their music videos, so it feels like that I've left them.
Right.
Believe me, if I rolled up on Roth right now, we'd have so much fun. It'd be like, Nile, baby, come here, brother.
There are so many convolutions to what's going on with Van Halen, and we start to get real serious about it, and I think this music's way too important to take so seriously.
Hi, I'm Jackie Martling. My brand new autobiography, The Joke Man, Bow to Stern, is being released. Go to JackieTheJokeman.com. Great holiday gifts, easy to wrap. I guarantee you are going to love this book.
This is Mark Cicchini from Three Sides of the Coin, and you're listening to Dave and Dave Unchained. All Van Halen, all the time.
Need a laugh? Check out the Funny How Comedy Podcast, which focuses on upbeat conversations with legendary comedians. It's free on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out on Facebook at Funny How Comedy Podcast, on Twitter at Funny How Podcast, on Instagram at Funny How Comedy Podcast, or email us at funnyhowcomedypodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, there's every part of me, from my hair to my toes, miss my friendship with Eddie and Alex Van Halen. I think Alex and I are probably still good friends. Eddie and I, we hit a real hard bump in the road. It's kind of like, a relationship with a partner, and things go so wrong, you just don't feel like you could ever let that go, But we'll see. Because I think I can let anything go. I don't know if Eddie can let anything go. Maybe he can. But right now, there's a lot of resentment built up. It's almost like there's so much anger that I don't even want to run into him. I used to always say, if I ran into him somewhere, it'd be like, oh, Eddie, how you doing? Big hugs and kisses. I don't think it'd be like that right now. I think it'd be like, you did this and you did that. We'd get in each other's face. It got real ugly.
Terry, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. No problem.
We're very excited to talk to you. We are both fans of your work. It's a pleasure having you on.
Well, it's a pleasure being on. I like anybody that likes what I'm doing. It's naturally gonna be happy that somebody's listening to something, because the way the guard has changed, and the generations. We're a long way from home. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we wanted to start off by asking you, how did you initially meet the Van Halen brothers?
I knew Dave actually before I knew Everett, but
oh, you did?
Yeah, I went to school with him. I was in the 7th grade with him, as a matter of fact. Well, we went to Elliott and Muir, basically, John Muir High. And I really started talking to him in 9th and 10th grade,
Okay.
I instantly liked him, but, it was funny seeing him back then. He was heading that way. He had decided already what he was going to do with his life.
Really?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough on him because, you can't walk around thinking you're Mick Jagger. And it was a tough school that I went to.
Really?
People got their asses kicked.
Wow.
It was a racial thing back then, you know what I mean?
Was that in Pasadena?
Yeah, I remember one of the first Because we came back to school, I guess it was after one summer, Jimi Hendrix died in 1970.
Sure.
Yeah, so we were in, I was 15. That's when I really started talking to him. He was in different classes with me.